Hello, everyone. Welcome this evening to creating an introduction to creating a digital image of your vision. So I'm delighted to be here, and I'm thankful to my colleagues, Dahlia and Kate, for hosting this webinar for you, the Young McGill alumni. So thank you for being here. And before we begin, I'm actually a little curious to see where we are all coming from. Where are you all coming from? So I'm curious about that. So we have a couple of questions. I'm going to ask Dahlia to get a little poll out there to you. Unfortunately, I can't see the results right away, so you're going to have to bear with us. And she's going to share that with me. So I want to get a little pulse in terms of where you're coming from, what your status is, if you're a student, if you're in the workforce, and also if you've ever created a digital image of your vision, or I should say if you ever created a vision board. So Dahlia, if you wouldn't mind launching the poll, and we'll get started. So I see we have 58% from Montreal, which is wonderful, half the audience. Outside of Montreal, within Canada, 29%, that's very nice, 30% almost. USA, we have 14%, a little bit higher than what we had earlier this week, which is nice. And internationally, so far no one's attending internationally this evening. And that's okay, it's probably because of the hour change, I'm sure. It's 6 o'clock this evening, so I'm sure it's much later, early in the morning. We had some international students earlier this week when we hosted it at 12 o'clock. So that's wonderful in terms of our students, where they're coming from. Now let's look to see what your status is in terms of a student, or if you're in the workforce, a recent graduate. Okay, nice to see. So we have 40% are students, recent graduates 21. Congratulations to the recent graduates. And in the workforce, 38%. Okay, that's very nice. So 40% student, and we have 21 who've graduated. So we've got a nice mix actually this evening, which is wonderful. 38 in the workforce, that's wonderful. Okay, great. And then the third poll, out of curiosity, to see if you've ever created a vision board. So this just gives me an idea of the audience and where we're at in terms of this whole process. 0% have done a vision board. That's very interesting. Well, I'm kind of glad you're here this evening, because hopefully I'm going to get you excited to create one. 17% have started and never finished. That's okay. You've started, and again, I'm going to try to convert that 17% to starting it and actually finishing it. And then 83% have not. So wonderful. This is great, because one of my objectives then is I'm hoping at the end of this webinar, you'll be very excited to create a vision board of your own. In fact, I'm assuming that you're all here this evening because that's really the aim of wanting to start, get going. So before we begin, just to reiterate that there's going to be a little bit of writing exercises. As you know, this is an introduction, so we only have an hour together. We're going to get started on a couple of exercises, but this is going to be more time for you later to complete this as you get into that practice and starting to create that vision board for yourself. So have some paper and pen handy, or your laptop, whatever it is that you're comfortable with in terms of the exercise, and when we begin. So what we're going to do today, in fact, our roadmap is 3 things basically. We're going to gain some clarity. So I'm going to help you gain a little bit of clarity in terms of, decluttering that mind of ours, start thinking about some of the things that we want to achieve in terms of some goals. If you've registered for today, perhaps you've already given it some thought, which is wonderful. So we'll get a little bit going on that part. Then we'll look at, once we've done gaining some clarity in terms of what these goals could look like, what parts of your life do you actually want to achieve certain goals, whether it's your career, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's financial, there's different components to that. And then, of course, creating that digital image. So again, this evening, we're not going to go through the process of creating it, but you are going to get all the tools that you need to leave with so that you can create this digital image and begin manifesting the things that you want in your life. So as we move forward, why? I guess that's an important question. Why am I giving this workshop? why are we here today? And basically, for me, the why was I ventured out to do a vision board workshop back in 2019 with a colleague of mine. And this is the vision board that I had created. So this was back in the days where it wasn't digital, not that long ago, but basically it was more of a workshop. I got inspired, honestly, by what I actually created and what has happened or what has materialized for me since then. And that's why I'm a real believer in the vision board, in really manifesting those things that you want in life. My board, if you look at it right now, it's not very structured in terms of the goals, which is something that we're going to look at, but it's more of a representation of my philosophy, the things that I live by every day. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of things that transpired. I have myself in the middle there, and that's because I reached a point in my career where I wanted to change. I wanted to take the helping role deeper than where I was at. And I think the timing of me creating that board is what ignited something inside of me to start taking small steps leading to where I am today, which is, doing coaching, consulting, designing workshops, very different from what I was doing before in my career. So it really shifted that energy. And unbeknownst to myself, when I created this board, I didn't necessarily know where I was going to go, but I already felt connected to other things that really got me going in my life, that really made me feel good and that I was contributing. And that's when I made the shift from working in a full-time position in a much more structured environment to a more unstructured environment and taking that helping role to a much more deeper level. I'm going to make one little point with the woman sitting on the position, the yoga position, just to show you how that manifested for me. I created this board in January, and about a month later, I got a phone call from a girlfriend of mine saying that they were opening a beautiful spa, or I should say a health center in the West Island. And she said, they're giving free yoga classes. Would you like to come? And I had never done yoga before that. So just goes to show you, I had that image of peace. I had that image of gaining that sense of feeling good about yourself, your mind, your body, and so forth. And next thing you know, I end up going to this yoga class. And of course, guess what happened? I fell in love with yoga, and now it's been part of my routine. So it just goes to show that when you manifest, things do actually happen when you start putting things out there. So you're here for this 1 hour. You had a long day. You're coming here at the end of the day. There's probably a lot on your mind. I want us to take just a couple of seconds to breathe. So perhaps we can take, 3 breaths together just to remove the things that are on your mind right now. So we'll do this together because I think I need a breather as well. Okay. Well, that felt good for me, and I hope it felt good for you as well. So, one thing we have to understand is the way the mind works. And according to experts, the mind encompasses 3 things. This is something that's just a natural process. There's confusion, there's distraction, and there's disorganization. Basically, experts say that we think about 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, which translates to about 2,500 thoughts per hour and 40 to 55 thoughts per minute. Okay, a lot of these thoughts, if you think about it, we don't even know what they mean, and sometimes they're meaningless, and sometimes because it's just something that goes through your head. But the reality is the stream of thoughts that go through our mind, it happens all day long. It's only when we actually need to focus do we realize how many thoughts are traveling in our heads. So think about it. If you keep all your thoughts in your head, which most of us do, our brain will keep bringing them up over and over again, and it makes us feel overwhelmed. And it's this feeling of overwhelmness that we need to overcome. So how are we going to do this? Well, Deepak Chopra tells us that the best ideas come to us in stillness. And that cannot be truer, because when the mind is busy and bristling and with all kinds of ideas, we can't possibly come up with creative ideas. So what we need to do is create that space in our minds to alleviate that noise so that we can come up with some ideas in terms of what we want. So the first thing we need to do is to gain clarity. And how are we going to do this? The exercise I've chosen to do today is called the brain dump. What's a brain dump? Well, it's the act of getting all your thoughts out of your head so that you can focus on one idea at a time. Think of the brain dump as dumping contents of a purse onto a table. What happens there? You're opening the valve of your mind and you're allowing all those thoughts to flow out of your head, and we're putting them onto paper. So for the next 2 to 4 minutes, I would like you to write down everything that is racing in your mind. Whatever is distracting you, what you need to do, what you dread, what you feel like you should be doing, what you think you should be doing, whatever is important, whatever is urgent, whatever comes to your mind. There's no judgment here. It's just writing. When you are finished, I'm going to ask you to type into the chat that you're done, but I'm also going to be cognizant of the time. So between 3 minutes to 4 minutes, and then we're going to come back to the presentation. So please take the time and just write. Okay. This is about 3 minutes into the process. So I'm going to ask you to stop dumping. Of course, this is an exercise that I'm sure that can go on and on, but we're going to come back to that. So what I'd like to know is, and you don't have to write this in the chat, but I want you to think about, how did that process feel for you? Was your mind so full that you couldn't wait to let all this out? And are you a little bit more mindful because you have done so? So this is an activity that the brain dumping is actually very important, because it opens up that mind to give us some clarity in terms of some of the things that we really need to look at. So let's move forward here. We're going to come back to that. So Jack Canfield, the guru of vision boards, the law of attraction, manifestation, says that we're all born with a unique purpose. The key to living that full life with happiness is to discover what that purpose is and to use it like a compass to guide you in the direction of your passions and your dreams. And this is, of course, so critical and so true, that we're all unique. We all have a purpose in our lives, and it's only for us to figure out what that is. But once you know in the direction that you want to take, then all your passions and your dreams and everything along that path is going to manifest. But you really have to be true to yourself when you come to this conclusion. The next favorite slide that I want to share with you, a beautiful quote, which is really the essence of how these things can actually work. If your ladder is leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. Oh, sorry. If every ladder is leaning against the right wall, then every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. So if it's not, right? So you've got that ladder, you've determined what some of your goals are, you've determined what some of your passions are, the things that you value. If everything that you're doing, if it doesn't align with those things, then you're getting to the wrong place faster. And that's a perfect indication for you then to make that judgment call in terms of, does this activity that I'm doing align with the things that I want out of life? And if it doesn't, then it serves me no purpose. I don't need to be doing it. So, when they say every day do some baby steps, every day take a step closer to that goal. Well, if you think about it, we have 365 days. If every day we took that step to one of those big goals that we want, chances are we're going to get very, very close to it. And so this is why the importance of that ladder, to make sure we are aligned. Alignment is very, very important in this process. So I want us to go back and to look at some of the items that we wrote down, okay? Now, I'm sure I asked you to dump everything, right? So you're gonna have some things that perhaps, things that you need to do. Gotta go pick up my clothes from the laundry. You have appointments to schedule. You have errands to run. Other things could be oriented towards a goal, a personal goal or professional goal, to plan an event, to take a workshop, something like today. You incorporated that into your schedule so that you would be able to take this webinar and get started on some of these things. It could be something on self-development. It could be anything. The point is, I want you to take a minute or two and I want you to look at seeing if you see any categories there. Are there any things that could be related to a goal? Is there any category that could be, obviously related to your to-do, which is just something you want to put on the side? But the most important thing I want you to realize with this exercise is that, like that purse that you dumped all those items, right now, you're now bringing this all back and you're going to categorize it. Just like if you had to put everything back into your purse, chances are you wouldn't have it at all the way that it was before. You would put things back into the pocket. You would perhaps put some slips into your wallet. You would get rid of the mask or the Kleenex that's sitting there, right? So you dump it and then you come back and you organize it. This is what this process is about. It's releasing the things that are in your mind to come out, and then to take the time to look at what you've put there and to see what are the things that you can put aside in terms of more of a to-do, and what are the things that look like they're part of a goal, and how can we develop those things. Now, the groups can be changed over time, whatever that is, that the grouping that you have. And perhaps for those students who are newly graduated, your biggest goal could be something related to your career. For those who are in the workforce, it could be something looking for a promotion or looking for expanding what you're currently doing, or perhaps even making a career change, right? So, and the students, it could be, well, what do you anticipate in terms of what your career could be like? So those are goals that you could be envisioning. What I'd like you to consider when we're looking at goals is, how do we determine which goals are worthy for us so that our ladder is aligned to them and we're doing everything we need to do to carry on? So Michael Stanier, who's a wonderful author, and he wrote the book on the coaching habit, he tells us that there's three categories, or there's three important things you need to have in order to feel that your goal is worthy. So number one, how thrilling is that goal? Well, it needs to counteract the feeling of obligation. If it's a goal that you feel obligated, just by that, it's like, okay, that's not going to excite you. It's got to be something that excites you, and it needs to be thrilling, right? So think about that goal that you have in mind and what that looks like. The next one is, think about how important it is. And it's not just important for you, but also how is it important for your family? How is it important for the community? What impact is this goal going to make on the rest of the people around you? And how daunting is it? This is actually a very, very good one, because it has to counteract the sense of being too comfortable. If we create a goal that's just a very comfortable thing, there's nothing exciting about that. It needs to be something outside of your comfort zone, outside that gets you kind of out of that fear, like, oh my God, can I do this? Basically, you take those three things and you put them on a score of 7, which gives you a total of 21. And he's saying that if you have 18 out of 21, then that's a score worthy of a goal. So I just want you to keep this in mind. You don't have to follow this, but I really like this strategy because it's part of the whole process of creating this vision board and creating goals and intentions that are really, really worthy and we're excited about. So this is why I think this is a really good piece to add when we're looking at that. Okay. So you've done the brain dumping. We've started looking at what these goals could look like for you. You're going to take more time to evaluate that. I want you to now, we're going to look at how visualization is going to help with this process. So I'm not sure if you all recognize who this athlete is, but this is Michael Phelps. Let me tell you, this is someone who's used the power of visualization throughout his career. And I think we can all attest that he had one fabulous career, okay? He always mentally rehearsed and imagined the movements, and which doing that mental preparation is the same thing as actually doing the movements. When he decided that he wanted to be an Olympian and he wanted to be the world's best, okay? So he had that vision, and then he took all the steps that he needed to do to get there. So the point of this is that it's not enough to have that vision and to say, I want to be the best in the world, but I need to understand that I have to take all these steps in order to get there. And you have to mentally rehearse those steps. And this is exactly what he did with his coach. It's almost like that puzzle. When you buy a jigsaw puzzle, you have the image, right? But inside the box is all loose pieces. It's up to you to put that puzzle together based on the image. So you are putting the pieces together. And this is very similar to the process of visualization, is actually imagining the things that you're doing to get there. Well, at the age of 21, Michael Phelps said that he wanted to be the best ever. And if I asked you how many medals did Michael Phelps win, I wish we had time to do the chat just to kind of see, but the reality is it's 28. And so Michael Phelps is the most decorated athlete in the history of the Olympics. So he definitely achieved his goal. So now I'd like us to take a little moment and go through a little bit of a visualization exercise. I also wanted to mention before that we're going to take some questions at the end. So I left enough time for us to ask questions, for you to ask questions. So just to bear that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of a visualization, and then we're going to come back to it. So you can keep your eyes open or you can keep them closed. It's up to you. So the example I'm giving you is that, let's say you dream of living in Australia for a year, okay? You imagine yourself getting on the plane, finding a nice place to live on the beach, and spending your days surfing and making friends with the locals. Every day you take the time to imagine yourself living this life in Australia. As you imagine this, you think about how it will feel, who will be there with you, what it will look like, sound like, smell, feel, and taste like. And before you know it, you start to get creative ideas about how to make this dream a reality by taking small actions and making decisions that will help you get there. You spend your lunch hour researching job opportunities in Australia and what you need to do to get a visa. You start to notice more people around you speaking with an Australian accent, and you find yourself striking conversations with them that you probably never would have before. As a result, you make more Australian friends, and you begin to build connections with people who might be able to help you achieve that goal. You start to save money for your big move, and you take advantage of every opportunity that brings you closer to that goal. And it will help you maintain motivation even when you are faced with obstacles and challenges. Because the process is such, ladies and gentlemen, that there will be obstacles along the way. But what happens is, Jack Canfield says that if you use visualization to focus on your goals, 4 things happen. Number 1, it activates your creative subconscious, which will start generating creative ideas to achieve your goal. And just like the example that I gave you 2 minutes ago, you started seeing what was starting to happen subconsciously if you were going to make that trip to Australia. So let's say, for the sake of, we have students, we have graduates, that your goal or career goal could be to be an electrical engineer, systems engineer at CAE Electronics. Let's just put that out there. When you visualize that you're at CAE and generate all the emotional feelings you would have if you were actually working there, you experience the same physiological reactions as if you actually were. So by actually putting yourself in the place of where you want to be, you emit these emotions inside of you that you are actually there. And so that physiological that's happening is what's going to get you motivated and what's going to get you into the steps of actually achieving that goal. It programs your brain at the same time to more readily perceive and recognize the resources that you're going to need to get to CAE. So you may start having conversations with people at CAE. You may start linking yourself with people on networking, on LinkedIn, and so forth, because you're starting to recognize some of the things that you need to do to achieve that. If you need to take some skills, if you need to take additional training, that's where this is all going to come to you. It activates the law of attraction. So again, you're going to draw yourself, you're going to be drawn to the people who actually either work there or who know of the company and so forth. So these are things that are going to start happening. And it builds your internal motivation, because then you're motivated to take the steps and the actions to achieve that goal. So at the end of the day, and this is where the process becomes important, if you chose CAE as a company that you want to work for because you have the same values that they do, and in the end, you don't end up working for CAE, you end up working for Bombardier, let's say, who also emulate the same values. What I want to demonstrate is that at the end of the day, you were working for an organization, perhaps it wasn't exactly CAE, but it was close enough to a company that also you still value and that resonates with you. So this is what I want to talk about in terms of the process. It may not always be exactly the way we want. If our dream house looks like this image that we picked, at the end of the day, when you buy your dream house, it's not going to look exactly like that picture, but the idea of that dream house is there. So moving right along. So we've had some time to clear our minds. We've had some time to think about some of our goals. We've done a little bit of visualization to show you how that can work. And now this is the tool that you're going to use to create that digital image. This is called the Be Funky tool. And I have asked Dahlia to put that into the chat, the name of the tool, and also the link to the tutorial, excuse me, I lost the word. My colleague and I created a 6-minute tutorial on a step-by-step process on how to go about using this tool. But I have to say that Be Funky is a very, very user-friendly tool. Once you get into the application, you'll be easily directed in terms of how to create this board. I'm going to show you now what the final result will look like, because we've had participants who've shared their board with us. So I'll be happy to show you that. But the important thing to know is that this tool also gives you a lot of the images. So it's very easy to pick images that really resonate with you. So it's called Be Funky, and you have both the link to the tool and to the webinar. So I've asked my colleagues to do that. Thank you very much, Dahlia, for taking care of that. Okay, moving right along, this is what your products could look like. So of course, very individual boards, of course, because everyone is individual and we all have our own pursuits. But this is what it looks like. You can put words, you can put affirmations, all kinds of things. One of the boards I'm going to have you know that this person who created this board wanted to, again, leave the current role that she was in and really pursue teaching of dance. And of course, when COVID hit, she wasn't able to do that physically. So what she did was she had to alter her plan and start giving lessons virtually. So this goes back to the point I was saying in terms of process. You need to trust the process once you have your goal decided, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be as smooth as you thought it was. She had to redirect to do it virtually. And so this is where you need to be open to that. I'm going to give you an example of when Jack Canfield was writing the very first Chicken Soup for the Soul book. He took a copy of the New York Times bestseller list, okay? He scanned it into his computer and he used the same font as the newspaper, and he typed Chicken Soup for the Soul into the #1 position in the paperback advice how-to miscellaneous category. He printed several copies and hung them around the office. Less than 2 years later, his book was #1 book in that category and stayed there for over a year. Now that's a pretty solid example of a successful visualization. And this could very well happen to you. It's all in your mind, you control it, and you can subconsciously direct it with the actions in order to achieve whatever it is that you want. So you didn't see the video, but I've given you the link to it. You've actually seen now what the final product could be. And so you have the tools now to create your board when you're going to be ready to create it. So let's say you've created that board of yours. The next important thing is you need to spend time to look at it, right? So you've identified your goals, you found the images that represent your vision, you visualize yourself actually being in those moments or achieving those goals. And the next important thing is to spend time looking at it. And so this is why we decided to do digital, because it's very easy to create this on Funky, to have it onto your phone. I have my vision board right in my office because I did the traditional one. It doesn't preclude you from doing the traditional one if you want. It doesn't have to be the digital. But we found that this is very easy, user-friendly, and the nice thing is that you can always update that vision board because once your goals are achieved, you can always add more images. So that's the beauty of doing it digitally, okay? But the important thing is you need to see it. So like our title, seeing is believing is achieving. The more you look at it, the more you'll believe it, the more you'll feel it, and the more things will start happening. There's no time on vision boards and goals, right? It really is having that idea and then the actions start happening at the moments when they should be happening. So you need to be patient with the process, as I mentioned, because there's going to be obstacles along the way. But all the little bumps on the road can be flattened with your determination and drive to go to where you want to go. So trust and believe in the process and it will materialize. I want to also show you in terms of the vision boards, what else you can achieve with the vision boards is you can turn them into action boards. You can do a theme board. So you can take one of your goals. If your vision board has several components, but then you want to narrow down and focus on one, you can turn an action board you can create an action board based on the vision board. Also, a nice idea with vision boards is for those who are in the workplace, this could be a great opportunity if you're working in a team and you're working on a project and you need to put all the members together on the team and decide what's this project going to be about, what are some of the things that need to be achieved. You can actually create a vision board, and if you do it together, the buy-in is right there from the beginning, and then you all have this image either on your phones, in your offices, and so you're all accountable for what you created together. So I like the use of a vision board also in a team setting in the workplace, and that perhaps can help those who are working in the office and needing to work on projects. And this is a much more creative and reflective way of getting a goal achieved. So we've got the C for clarity, and then there's 4 little more C's that follow that. And one of them, of course, is confidence. I want you right now to be very proud of where you are today because you've already achieved a lot, whether it's a student, recent graduate, or you're in the workplace. So be happy where you are today. You've done a lot, and that's going to be your confidence to be motivated to keep going and doing more of what you want to do. Okay? So confidence, I love the quote by Oprah Winfrey. It is confidence in our minds, our bodies, and spirits that allow us to keep looking for new adventures. And that's what this is all about. It is creating these goals, these adventures that we want in our lives, and not to be afraid. And that's when we lead to the next one, which is courage, right? I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. And so the most important thing is when we come out of our comfort zone, we develop this sense of, okay, I'm going to try something, because if we don't try it, we're never going to know. And that's the important thing about, we go back to that goal setting. If we look at Stanier's model, why do you think thrilling is in there, daunting, and how important it is? That's going to give us the courage to pursue it. And the next one is commitment. So the commitment to that, so it goes back to that, the ladder. We look at that ladder. If the things that we're doing are not aligned, but if they are aligned, we need to commit and we need to keep going. So unless commitment is made to that goal, there are only promises and hopes, but no plans. So we need to make sure that whatever we decide, we're committed to that. And if we're not committed to it, then it's not worthy pursuing, and perhaps we need to be looking at something else. So the commitment is very important. And then the next one is consistency. So you will never change your life until you change something you do daily. And to change a daily habit, or to change any habit, has been said that you need 21 days to do that. So if one of your goals is that you want to feel better, you want to feel healthier, and you want to join the gym, well, sometimes to get you motivated to do that on a daily basis may be hard, but you can put some triggers for you. You can keep your gym bag near your door. And when you look at that image of your gym bag, that's your trigger to say, I need to go to the gym today. So you can find little ways of actually helping you achieve some of those things. So those are your 4 C's to go with your clarity. And then, of course, we're moving on to whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. So this is what we're aiming. Whatever you've decided, this is your journey. This is going to be your board. And if you believe it, you can really achieve it. One of our participants left us with a beautiful poem, or came back to us with a beautiful poem. And I'd like to share this with you. It really is about your life and creating this for yourself. So where do you want to go? Have you thought about where you want to go? All the places you dream about, all the people you hope to meet, all the memories to keep. Have you thought about where you've been, the places that felt like home, the people that touched your heart? Your life is your canvas to color. It is the hope of all your tomorrows. When you can, color it with the colors in your heart. Color it with love, color it with grace, color it with kindness. So when the colors of your life bring you down, you will rise above, knowing you will be held by the colors of your heart. I thought that was a beautiful poem I wanted to share with you, because your life is your canvas to color. This is all in your hands to decide. So whether you're coloring, or you're crafting, or you're designing, you're creating that life for yourself. So ladies and gentlemen, this is time to begin your journey. And I hope that you've been able to find comfort in knowing that visualization really does work. My aim today was really to give you some opportunities to think about gaining some clarity, creating those goals, and how you can use visualization to manifest them. The brain dumping, honestly, is a wonderful exercise to do, whether you do it in the morning, whether you do it in the evening, just to clear your mind. And sometimes you think that may be a routine, but when we have that routine of release, it allows us to then form new ideas. And this is the whole purpose of trying to open our minds to be creative. So as we near the end, I wanted to ask you how you're leaving this workshop. And I believe that Dahlia is going to be asking you this in terms of the question, in terms of the survey. And you'll be able to answer that. And Joel Barker, which is a famous quote, vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes time. But vision with action is going to change the world. We're going to get to questions, but I also wanted to show you my slide in case you wanted to reach out for any further information. I am on LinkedIn. You'll find me, Tania Chomyk. I'm right there. You can recognize the picture. So just wanted to let you know, if you wanted to reach out, I'd be more than happy. I've had people who created their boards and then come back and share it, which is wonderful. Or if they're stuck, I've done check-ins also with people if they wanted to know how to get unstuck. So that's also a discussion that we can have. And we're going to go back to the questions. These are the resources that I used, which I can show you as well for this presentation. But I'm going to go back to some questions now from the audience. I'm going to look at the time. So yes, I'm happy. We have I left 10 minutes for questions. I tried to wrap up the presentation. So let me see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the question, if there's any here. Okay, so questions from the audience I'm going to take. Do you recommend keeping your personal and professional goals on a separate vision board? That's a very good question. So what I've done is I have a board. I don't have it here right now. I do, I think, yes. Just to show you, I use a sketchbook often to kind of write. I'm a very visual person, so hence why the vision board really works for me. What I did, because I want to create a new one, is I actually have one page that encompasses my 5 components of my board. But absolutely, you can create one, just a professional one. Like I showed earlier, the images, one was on a theme, right? So this person was about their going to university and what that whole experience would be like for them. And so if you have professional goals, you can keep it separate if you would like. I like to have all mine on one page, and then I, I kind of like to see the whole picture, but that's me. But I do agree that you can easily have 2 boards. You can create one personal, you can create one professional, and yeah, so that's fine. How do you break down a goal if it has a lot of different components and multiple skills to develop? How do you break down a goal if it has a lot of different components? Well, I think the important thing is you look at that overarching goal, and then you kind of have to take a back step and say, if my role or if my goal is, I want to pursue a career in coaching, let's say, and I have to do a complete shift from what I was doing before. So you have to break it down, yes, in terms of skills to develop, and in terms of, so how I broke it down was I have to look at, first of all, what did that program entail? What did I need to do to, first of all, get into the program? What are the steps I needed to take to start developing those skills into making sure that I was following within the program? So I absolutely think, yes, you need to break them down. The vision board doesn't need to have that. The vision board is really to give you that overarching goal, that vision. But what you can do is keep the book that I have, and these are the things that I write. And so when I have my page, which I wanted to show you, my goals, then what I do is when I've achieved something, or I've already, worked on that goal, I actually go back and I put it in here. So these are my goals for 2021. And as you can see, I have them out here, and I have, personal, and I broke it down in personal development, health, and travel. And I already wrote some of those things. So what I've done is, when I look at this, and of course I want to transfer it over to a vision board, I'm able to see what I've done. So yes, I think it's good to have the breakdown, but to keep that as a separate piece, and to have the vision really of just the big goal. Or you take that one goal and you do break it down into an action board, and that action board holds you accountable. So if you break down the goal into smaller pieces, then you design an action board, and each block will have one. So if it's health and wellness, then one block could say, make sure you wake up every morning at 7 o'clock and do stretches. When you have that written out that way in a board, sometimes actually that's your motivation as well. So take your smaller, take a goal, break it down into actionable goals, and put that on a board. Okay, is it common to change some images in the vision board after I create one? Yes. The nice thing and the beauty of Be Funky is that you can take an image, put it on, look, create your whole board, and say, you know what, this image doesn't resonate with me as much. I want to change it. Absolutely, you can change it. That's the beauty of it too, because you save it and you can come back to it and you can make changes. And once you've actually have that board and you feel that you've already achieved certain things, then it's easy to go back and manipulate and make the change. So this is why I like the digital, but it doesn't preclude you from making one, a crafting one. And sometimes it's a fun activity to do with friends. You know, you bring the magazines, you look up affirmations, you look at some of the things, some words that mean something to you, like I did in my vision board. And so it could be a fun activity if you're doing it within groups as well. So I'm going to see if there's any more questions coming into the chat. Dahlia, if there were any more questions, because we have a couple of minutes left. Yes, we have 5 more minutes left. Okay, this is a good question. How do you deal with some unexpected changes that happen that get you off track from your goal path for a long time? So that's a very good question, because the changes are going to happen. And this is where I wanted to say, the goal you have is the goal you have, but life happens. All the other things around you, you cannot control. So the important thing to understand is, if that goal is really something that you want to achieve, this is where I mean you have to be patient with the process. And sometimes you get derailed because you need to focus or your attention goes somewhere else. But that goal is never lost as long as you see it, you believe it, and you want to achieve it. So this is where that whole process needs to come in. And sometimes it'll come unexpectedly, or it'll come in a way that you didn't think. It's not all positive things that could happen. Sometimes a negative situation happens in your life, but guess what? It opened that door for this thing to happen. We don't see it when we're going through that situation that's negative, but the result is that it puts you on the path to where you want to go. So I can't stress enough to believe in the process and to be patient, to be very, very patient. What is the time, a question, what is the timeline of your boards? That can really depend on you. My first board that I showed you, I feel it was more of my philosophy, what I like to live by, how I want to live my everyday. And I'm at a point now where, as I showed you, I've created really more goals. And so I'm going to put those up. It could be a yearly board. It could be something that could take longer. If you want that dream house, that's going to be you to decide, how soon do I want that dream house? So I think you start off with, these are the things that I want to achieve. I'm going to be patient with the process, but once I materialize them, that's going to shift for me to something else. So I think it's really going to depend on you and the goals that you select. Another question, very good question. Can you advise regarding letting go or changing goals at different points in your life? Yes. So it goes back to that goal. And yes, you can actually change a goal and it's okay, right? We have to be, you know, how should I say, kind to ourselves. Sometimes you have a goal and then things happen in life, right? All of a sudden, you know, you may have a goal, let's say you want to pursue a different career. You're recently married and guess what? You got pregnant. So now you're having a baby. Well, life happens, right? So again, it goes back to that goal. How important is that goal? Do I put that aside for now and that's okay? Or guess what? I've had the child. It's 2 years later. I completely don't want to do that anymore. I want to go in a different direction. That's fine. So it's really okay to let go of the goals, as long as they, you know, if you're fixated on a goal and you really want to achieve it, that's one thing. But if life happens and it kind of takes you away from it, if you're meant to have that goal achieved, you will. And that's kind of my philosophy. If I'm meant to have that done, I will. So it's the power of wanting it and still wanting it after things have shifted in your life, and then will allow you to complete that goal. And if not, it's okay. Let go and new ones come in. And the new ones that come in are probably the ones that you really want to pursue. So don't be too attached to a goal. Sometimes we have to let them go. Trying to see if we have, okay, any more questions? I think I have answered the questions track, we have that. I think I have answered, can you advise regarding letting go? We did. What is your best tip or advice to stay focused on your goal? Well, again, to stay focused on your goal, really, if you believe in it and you really want it, then yes, you will stay focused. And if you lose focus, again, be kind to yourself. Sometimes you get redirected because there's something else that's pulling you somewhere else, but it doesn't mean that you have to be constantly fixated on that goal. What it is that you have to have that goal, you have to believe in it, that you want it, and you have to realize that the little actions that you take subconsciously or consciously are going to have an impact on you achieving that goal. So this is kind of where you're going with that focus on that goal, but don't let that goal consume you. You still carry on with your life, but deep down, you know that you have that goal and you have your reminder that's on your phone or on your screensaver. And sometimes you could be looking at that screensaver and saying, you know what? I see a shift. I'm not sure if I want to continue. And that's okay because you'll make a change. So we don't have any more questions. This was a wonderful. I hope you got what you wanted out of this workshop. I had a wonderful time being here and sharing my knowledge with you on creating a digital vision board. I hope you leave with some great creative ideas in terms of how you want to go about creating yours using Be Funky. And by all means, please reach out to me on LinkedIn or by email, and I'd be happy to help you or to answer any other questions you may have. I want to thank Kay and I want to thank Dahlia from McGill for hosting this workshop, and I hope to see you again at a later time, perhaps delivering other workshops. So thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed these sessions.